There I was, dancing on a beautiful October night in Las Vegas, Nevada, to one of my favorite country artists singing one of my favorite country songs. We were at an outdoor venue where he was singing to 26,000 people. I had casinos and hotels to my right and to my back. I was there with my wife and about 18 other family and close friends, just having a good time. We were about 40 feet from the stage off to the right. And at the end of that song, I heard confusing popping sounds. I looked around and I thought maybe everything was okay. At the beginning of the second song, you heard machine gun fire off in the distance to my right. I thought maybe it was a drive-by going up and down Las Vegas Boulevard. The singer kept singing. The officers standing over here to my right, they were still there. Then the second round of machine guns started. The singer runs off the stage. The lights go out. You're seeing people get hit and fall in front of you and around you. All I could do was tell everybody to get down, and we dropped to the ground. There I have my wife about 3 feet in front of me on the ground. I'm on one knee and I notice that there's a muzzle flash coming from an elevated position, and I knew we were under attack from an active shooter 32nd stories up at a hotel across the street. At that moment, we're sitting ducks. So I told everybody to get up and run. And I wanted to run and try to get to a beer booth about 40 yards away because I wanted to run away from the danger. And as we start to run, all I could think about was staying as big as I possibly could and tall. So God forbid a bullet comes in our direction, it hits me and not my wife. Each step that I took, you can imagine the prayers that go into that. Praying that when you step down, you're going to be able to feel that ground. We made it to the beer booth. We were there for a couple seconds. I noticed an exit point onto Giles Street, which is a street on the east side of that venue. And there was a squad car there, probably for parking control. So I tell everybody, let's go, let's get up, and we run. And we get to that squad car. There were already 2 women down at that moment that were injured. I looked to my back and up the road, I saw 4 more squad cars. So I said, let's go. We were there for a couple seconds. We got up and we started to run. As we started to run, a man comes running out of the gate carrying a woman like a pair of scissors. I ran over to him and I grabbed her right wrist and her boot. And we ran a couple feet and we gently laid her down. She was gone. That moment, I ran back to my wife. I told her I need to go back in. People are hurt. I gave her a kiss. I told her I promise I'll be okay. I told my brother-in-law to take the girls and run north. Get away from the danger. I'll find you. I watched her run. I turned around and ran back. When I ran through the gates, everybody was running out. I came upon more of an older woman. She had been shot in the lower right side. I naturally just picked her up and got her to the squad car. That was going to be my thing. That's what I think I was there for, was to run in and grab people and bring them out. As many as I could for as long as I could. When I set her down, I jumped back up and I went back. And as I started to run back in, 20 people or so were coming out, and a blonde-haired, 5'0" woman grabbed me by the shoulder and said, I'm an ER trauma nurse. What can I do to help? I said, ma'am, there's women right here down. You can put your hands on them and keep them alive. That woman ended up putting up and managing 3 triage centers on Giles Street that probably saved hundreds of lives. True hero. So I ran back in a couple different times. The shooting's still going on. At one point I go in and there was already bodies down. I'm checking for pulses, and I noticed 2 women dragging their friend out. I ran over to them. We scooped her up. I threw her over my shoulder. I turned around and ran as fast as I could. At this time, when we got back, there were more people on Giles Street. More cars were coming, and they were being used as ambulances, taking injured to hospitals because the shooting was still going on, and ambulances and first responders couldn't come into that scene. So there was a white car, and I was able to get her and her 2 friends in that car, and it drove off. She didn't make it. She passed away in a hospital a couple hours later on an operating table. I ran back, and I kept going back and forth, trying to bring people out. At one point, I went all the way back to where I originally started that night, where I was dancing, and there was a woman down, and she wasn't well. I scooped her up. I ran as fast as I could, and I got her out to Giles. And as I laid her down, she took her last breath. I stood back up, and for about 13 seconds, I stared at her, and I stared back at my boots. And I looked up, and I made a promise to just keep my boots moving forward, to just get in and help as many as I could. And that's what I did. Over and over and over, I did what I could to try to help people, get people out, carry women, men in my arms, over my shoulders, whatever I could do to get people out of that madness, that chaos, and get them to somewhat of a safe haven. At one point, I laid a woman down, and I got up, and 2 guys come over, and they said, "Sir, you've been shot." I said, "Oh my God, I didn't even know." And I ripped my shirt down, and I said, "Can you please just make sure I'm okay?" And they looked, and they said, "Sir, you're okay. It's not your blood." I carried out so many people that my whole left side was covered. So I grabbed some water, and I poured it all over myself, and just got re-energized and refocused and kept going. At one point, I took a person out, and I jumped up, and an EMT, off-duty EMT, says, "Sir, where are you going next?" I said, "Who are you?" He said, "We're with you. You're bringing them out. We're fixing them up." For 8 hours, we did that. 8 hours, until finally, at the end of the night, 2 SWAT officers came up to me. They put their hand on my shoulder. I said, "Sir, you can stand down." I dropped to my knees. I didn't, how can you imagine what just happened? All the people. Didn't matter who we were saving. There was no bias in that moment. You're just going to help and help people that were in need. I had so many people within seconds coming and lifting me up and putting their hands on me. About 8 hours later now, we're in Dallas. We're back home. I'm in my truck, and I'm trying to process how the heck I'm supposed to go pick up my kids now and go back to work. What am I supposed to do? And out of nowhere, I get a phone call from a friend of my dad's, and he says, "Listen to me right now. I'm a retired combat vet. I've done tours over in various places. I have a relatable feeling of what you're going through right now. This is what your next 72 hours is going to look like." I was vulnerable at that time, and I was so approachable because I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, and I just listened. And he gave me a survival guide for my next 72 hours. The headaches, the nightmares, the speech, the confusion, everything. And he really, it saved my life in the beginning. And I had multiple people coming out and sharing their stories with me. They got me to go to EMDR therapy. I went to therapy for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years, and EMDR allowed me to take every minute of where my boots took me that night and process that and cry. I was a professional athlete. I grew up in a professional athlete's home. I was built to suppress my emotions and continue to be as tough as I possibly could, but not then. No way. It's too much. We've all had those 13 seconds of time where that 13 seconds has reset our life, our existence, what makes it important in our lives, whether it's a car accident, an argument, a failed marriage, whatever that is, we've had that 13 seconds. Think about that 13 seconds of time that's reset your existence. And you kind of go back to that every once in a while when things get a little crazy. My 13 seconds I see every day. I look down at her, and I look at my boots, and I look up, and I just tell my boots to keep moving forward, to help people where I can. I encourage all of you, everybody that's listening, help yourself. Help your community, help our world. Because in the end, love wins. And now you can see her. You can feel my 13 seconds. And if you don't have 13 seconds to go to, then use mine. Thank you.